My name is James Holdiness. I was born in Louisville, Mississippi in 1947.
Do you have any family members that are serving or have served in the military?
Yes, my dad served in World War II, and my brother served. He was a career Army officer.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
Going to high school and working a cotton farm in Louisville, Mississippi.
In which branch of the military did you serve, and did you enlist or were you drafted?
In 1965, I enlisted in the U.S. Navy, and I became a Navy SEAL with the U.S. Navy.
Why did you choose that specific branch of the military?
The reason I chose the Navy, when I was in high school, I wanted to travel and write. And I seen a sign that said, "Join the Navy, see the world." So I'm thinking, that's what I want to do. I'm going to travel and write. So that's why I joined the Navy.
What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training?
Well, when I departed for training camp, which was in, boot camp was in Great Lakes, Michigan. It was in March 1965. First thing I did was ride the bus to Great Lakes, and when we arrived there, they made us empty our pockets and stand in file in a line, and started using a few choice words to line us up and kind of tell us that we were in the military now. We belonged to them. So that's basically my first episode with the U.S. Navy.
Do you recall any instructors? Anyone in particular?
Well, I recall an instructor I had when I went through the naval, excuse me, when I went through BUDS, that's the training for a Navy SEAL. We had a short Mexican instructor that was, let's just say he was one of a kind, and he had some pretty rough ways of treating us. He was short, and he had a attitude about short. Yeah, I guess being short, I don't know, but he seemed like he took it out on us.
How did you adapt to military life, including the physical regimen, barracks, food, and social life?
Well, I adapted by saying to myself, hang in there, do what they tell you to do, and eventually you'll get through this thing. And it was going through BUDS, it was a minute-to-minute thing. Going through boot camp, which was before BUDS, was like a week-to-week thing. So BUDS was much harder than the regular boot camp that we went through. But I would just keep telling myself that you can do this thing and get through it. And when I got to BUDS, the guys around you would help you a lot with hanging in there and sticking with it.
Where did you serve?
I served, my first duty station was in San Diego. And then I went to Coronado for training for the SEALs. And then Vietnam until I got out.
What were your duties?
My duties in BUDS was just to get through it. After going to Vietnam, it was a lot of search and destroy missions, trying to capture certain people and interviewing them and obtaining information. And then, of course, some things that I won't mention that brings some bad memories back.
What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you form while you were serving?
In the Navy SEALs, we were tight as you can get. There was 8 of us. We were on SEAL Team 1. And I was closer with them than I was my own family. You would put your life in those guys' hands, and you'd give your life up for them, and they likewise for you. It was like I say, it was tighter than being with my family. And when I first got out, I felt lost because of the camaraderie and the tightness and the way we felt about each other and the honor and the respect that you had for each other.
Do you have any memories you'd like to share about your service abroad?
Well, I have one memory that when I received the Bronze Star, there was me and another SEAL working together on something we call a SEER assignment, and we were cutting wire at a POW camp. And one of our jets came over that the Army had called for an airstrike. They were over fighting not too far off from where we were at, but they didn't know we were there. And one of our jets came over and dropped out a 500-pound bomb where we were at. And it blew me up in a tree. And the combustion from the bomb knocked me out, blew me up in this tree, and then that's how I hurt my neck. And then I fell out of the tree and I landed back here. But my buddy had got his leg blown off. So I put a tourniquet on it and started our guns and radio and everything else. I don't know where they were. They were blown to bits. And so I carried him for quite a ways, and because I was afraid we'd be captured by the VC, the Viet Cong. And I ran into an Army Ranger. He called for medevac for me, and I put my buddy on the medevac. And I never heard any more about him. So years went by, and in 2012, I went to a reunion, and he showed up at the reunion. So that's that was. So that was a memory I'll never forget.
Did you have a nickname during service that has stuck with you?
Stroker.
How did you stay in touch with family back home?
we were in the jungle most of the time, and sometimes we would receive a letter. They'd be waiting for us at the base camp. So I'd receive a letter once in a while from my family.
Where were you when the war ended?
When the war ended, I was home out of the military. I got out in '69. And the war ended in '72 or say I can't remember, '72 or '75.
Were you awarded any special recognition for your service?
I was awarded the Bronze Star, Meritorious Unit Commendation Medal, and then some Vietnam medals for serving in Vietnam.
How did you return home?
By plane. We flew into San Francisco, and I forget what airline, but it was a commercial airline we flew in on.
How were you received by family in the community?
Well, I was received by my family like they really missed me and was proud of me. But as far as the public and the American people, they didn't. They would call us names and different things, baby killers and names like that, which it really upset me when I came home, and we were greeted at the airport, which was San Francisco. That's where I flew into. And so it was an unpleasant experience coming home as far as the American public. But my family was good.
How did you readjust to civilian life?
That took some time. When I first got home, to get adjusted, to the family life. My dad he was living in Maryland at the time. My mom and dad, and they had arranged for me to meet this young lady who was next door to visiting her grandparents, and so I was out talking to her, and she asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I just got out of Vietnam, came home from Vietnam, and she called me a baby killer. So I had an old Norton motorcycle. I grew up in Mississippi. I had an old Norton motorcycle that I got running again and got it going good where I could ride it. So I told my dad, I said, I got to get out of here. I can't handle this. So I took off from Mississippi and went to my granddad's farm. And different people owned it at that time. I went up and introduced myself and asked them if I could stay there and work for them for room and board. So I did that for 3 months, and that's how I kind of adjusted to getting back. But I felt, like I say, I felt lost when I got home because the guys I served with.
Have you remained in contact with or reunited with fellow veterans?
Yes. We have a reunion every year in Coronado. And then some of the boat guys that took us around different parts of Vietnam, they also meet, and I go to their reunions also, and so that's once a year too.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
I'm a member of the Disabled American Veterans.
What have you done since separating from the military?
I became a police officer when I separated from the military. I became a police officer. Then I went to the Secret Service and worked at the White House while Nixon was president. After that, I didn't like that too much because it was too boring. So I left and started working for the railroad as a railroad detective. I did that up until I had a heart transplant and they put me out on disability.
How did wartime experiences affect your life?
It took a long time to get adjusted to let me say, to where I can be a good person, to where I'll do things that will not only benefit me but benefit other people. I was numb for years, and the PTSD classes that I go to has helped me with that. Now I'm able to have a halfway normal life as far as my family and being able to let my emotions out and enjoy things where before I would, like I said, I'd stay numb. I wouldn't go places. I wouldn't do things I used to do. And now I play music for some of the nursing homes, and also for the veterans associations. I'll go and play and sing for them. And so it's I've adjusted finally in my late years of my life to where it's turning into a good life.
What are some life lessons you learned from military service?
The major life lesson that I learned was through the Navy SEALs training I had. And that was, you never give up. You never ring that bell. You finish the job.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
My feelings of the war I was in, the Vietnam War, I came to the realization that it was a political war and lives of young men and women were killed for no reason other than it being a political money-making war for the politicians.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view or hear this interview?
For future generations, I would like to see them stand up, be counted, be heard, and love their country, because we live in the greatest country in the world. And I would hope they would support the country and do the right things that they should do in life. And if you start something and it's good, finish it and do a good job at it, and don't be lazy.
Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview?
No, I feel fine about this interview.